Well, with a sense of a little bit of sadness and a little bit of, I don't know, regret, I have to put some saws in the retirement home just to make room for new projects. 555, my 56 millimeter Hudzel that I've run for the last couple of years. Of course, my big old John Thread, Z, plural, and that one is the 372 out of a 365, and this is Cyclops. Big old ugly pipe on them. But they've run well. But I need to make room. Of course, my trusty old XL is back in there. And what I do is I put some fuel in them and fire them up and let them run for a little bit, and then take the gas and dump it out and let them idle till they stall. And then they get their inductance to retirement. So, but you know, it points out over the last, I don't know, 15 years, there are saws that stick out in your mind as absolute favorites, and some that you like, but they get put away. And as I was putting these away, there was actually two that gave me the most regret. I know this sounds really hokey, but it's just true. And the first was this guy right here. This 56 millimeter Farmertech that runs beautifully. This thing here is totally sorted out. And I would say is still one of my preferred work saws. It just has to move over for some new saws to get some run time. But I would have to say that's my absolute favorite saw right there. Out of all these, believe it or not, that one right there is my favorite saw to run. It's getting harder for me to do it, but it's my favorite saw. And it's a real toss-up between the next three saws that I put a lot of time on. The XL 925, big old John Thread, and Cyclops. I guess they occupy the number 2 spot simultaneously because they've been run, as number 1 saw spanning over the last 15 years, 20 years. And number 3 is the 555 for the farm saw. But that right there, to this point in time, is my absolute favorite saw to run. And I know some people are going to get a little upset or not believe it, but that's it. Out of all the saws I've done this last few years. So, happy retirement. Maybe we'll see you again sometime. But for now, lights out. So, what's going to take the place of the ones that are in the retirement home is going to be some combination of what you see here in the bench. Right now, this 562, while not my favorite of all time, but it's a damn good saw. It's taking the place of what Cyclops was as my real go-to saw for most of the situations I run into. This saw right here takes the place of my original 455, the 555, and Cyclops, and now it's the 562, which is the general all-around farm saw. And these two guys right here, that spling saw, which you know and love. And this is one that's still sort of in the debug stage. By the way, Bling Saws, it runs beautifully. I worked it out. I had to rejet the carburetor to really run well. And now it does. It's a strong saw. It's not a race saw. I mean, you can build that to a lot more than what it is. But what it is, it's just goofy and fun, and I've been using it quite a bit just to prove that I can. So it's taking the place of the 56 millimeter Farmertech Hudzel saw. That's going to be sort of the go-to big saw until it quits, if it ever does. This one here is kind of in debug. That has the highway top end. Not quite as strong as the old 56 millimeter was, but it's strong enough. And we're going to move into these. I've got a whole pile of them. and I got a whole pile of parts. So what we're going to do is take that 385, we're going to build it stock, and then do some comparisons with a 385 junk pile saw and one of these Farmertech 660s. You know, of course, that's the big bore, so it's close to 100 cc's. This one here is a 90 cc saw. When we're done, I'll put a 390 top end. But I think that's a comparison that should be made. I think the other thing you're going to see is us actually start doing some cost comparisons. Dead saw salvage on some of these orange saws versus, you know, built from scratch. I've got a little 036 I'm in the process of building too. Bling saw cost me about $400 to replicate. Believe it or not, that's going to cost me $400 to replicate as well. And see, that's kind of like the piece of the puzzle that nobody talks about on these. You go buy aftermarket top ends for this, the Cross and the Highway, you're spending another $100. Bling saw, I spent $25 for that top end. Okay, $30 with shipping. So right now, and I got, probably $40 into this arrangement from Definitive Dave. So that's $100 more. And this one, for another $100, has the Highway top end. In terms of how quickly they can cut through 20-inch hard maple, well, there really is no comparison right now. And it's not really a fair one to make. This one I'm going to modify the muffler. And I'm also going to modify the carburetor because the carburetor's not just right. It's pretty much a trend. Hard to get them to idle. And there's just a whole variety of reasons why. On this carburetor, I did a video, but to summarize, it's got some Walbro parts mixed in, jetting and throttle plate and, you know, etc. This is a sorted out saw. Very easy to start for what it is. A lot more powerful than the original 56mm Farmertech. Whole lot louder too. This one here really hasn't had a chance to get developed, so I can't give you an opinion on that. We're going to do a long-term review on those top ends. I have a Cross top end as well on one of these saws. It's just not right here in the bench. So, I mean, if you're interested, stay tuned. That's the 550 dead saw salvage saw. It's up and running. I've got a low speed issue on it. It's a tank vent issue. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, the channel's going to veer towards these. See, I get these dead for like maybe $100 in, I don't know, blown up top end. And assuming that the saw is complete, if I put another 150 into it plus details, there's a possibility I can get this one up and running for the same $400 it would take me to replicate this one right here with all OEM parts. We're going to explore that and just see if that's possible. But for now, I got to finish developing these, or this one in particular. That one's pretty much done. That thing there just rips and rips. I got a 9-tooth on it and an 18-inch Tsujihara, which is ridiculous. This is going to get the bar and chain that was on the 56. It's going to get an 8-tooth sprocket and a 20-inch bar and chain and actually get put to work, not just for play. This one here has a 20 and an 8-tooth already. Actually, I think I put a 7-tooth on this one. You know, until I get it really debugged, I'm going to be a little conservative with the gearing. But anyway, got to get myself revved up because I'm sad about putting those saws in retirement. I really am. It's funny how you get attached to certain saws. That original 56mm Hudzel Farmertech, I've had so much fun with that saw. You know, if I was a normal human being and a normal person, I'd just run that thing until it quit, you know. But I've got all these other saw projects I got to do, and they need runtime. So I've got to cut the tie and put it away and start focusing on these. Otherwise, these won't get any time at all. I'm telling you right now, if you put that saw on the floor and let me pick from every saw I have, and I've got a pile of them, you know, for me to just grab something and go either do firewood or whatever, I grab that one first pretty much every time. Even though it's big, bulky, and all that, and I'm getting old and my arthritis flares up. Just a lot of fun. The second one I pick is this one, only because I can run it for a long time without getting tired. So those two saws right now are my number one, number two real world work saws. And hopefully, if we're successful, this guy will replace the 56 in day-to-day use. That's the other thing. The 56 millimeter Farmertech that I just retired, it may sound funny, it is very fuel efficient. And it reminded me when I was sitting here idling on the floor, all the other ones had quit and that damn thing was still idling, partly because it has a larger volume in the fuel line and the carb. But I'm talking like 3 or 4 times longer before it finally gasped and quit. You know? But I've also noticed that when I'm bucking large wood, it doesn't use as much fuel as you'd expect out of a saw that size. For that matter, it doesn't use any more than Cyclops would, for example. You know, very, very fuel efficient. Just the way it is, without any modifications. This one here, don't know yet. I really haven't paid attention to fuel usage. This one here, I haven't either as well, so it's not fair to say that the other one's better than those two. But right now, it's a lot better than the hopped up 372s in terms of fuel usage, and I have no idea why. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. But anyway, moving on.